As Trevor had shared, I used to be sitting out in the audience with yourself as a customer. And prior to joining eGain, which has been about 4 months ago, I had 20 plus years at Land's End, and my last role had been within the customer care part of the business, and worked really closely with Mary Judkins, who's here, who's a close friend of mine as well. And it's offered me a great opportunity now to see both sides of it, from the the business side, and now from the more of the technology side. So hopefully I can bring some of that through in the messaging we have here. I'm going to go back a little bit. Transactions to engagement. That's what we're going to talk about. A world that was more predominantly based off of transactions and is now based more on customer engagement. And I'm going to preempt you a little bit and let you know much of the content that I'm going to talk to has either been shared with already in some discussions we had, or it's things that you've seen and read before. But so instead of zoning out and say, well, I've seen this before, this is stuff I've heard before, I want to try to put you in the right, proper perspective. Is we have, as leaders in our business, to go back and educate folks about the power of engagement, and we're going to be talking more about that. So when you're listening, think about how well am I positioned that I can go back and advocate and have this message with my team, with my leaders, and I can be in a position to say that we need to make some changes. And we need to make changes because this is a very powerful change that's taking place. And again, a lot of my message isn't going to be new to you, but are you in a position that you think you could get in front of a team, communicate this message, and be persuasive enough to ask for changes in your organization? So keep that in mind. And I'm also, if you're at any point you want questions, feel free to reach out. So the agenda, the age of the customer. I'm going to talk through that a little bit more. How you can position yourself to thrive better, how easy it can be with eGain, and what are some things you can do and take away that are real time and legitimate things you can do right now. So the age of the customer. Here's a Forrester slide. Many of you probably have seen this before. And it talks about the evolution of business a bit. Going back from the 1900s to 1960, it was the age of manufacturing. So if you own production facilities, you own the business. Think going back to Ford Motor Corporation, a classic example. Then from there we moved on to the age of distribution. Again, at this point in time, manufacturing, it became very competitive. It became a bit commoditized. Distribution became more the king. Think of Walmart when you think of this example, and how well they've been able to do globalization of business and getting price points down. And I think we all understand where they brought how changes they made to the industry. So then from there, from the age of information, which we just recently have transcended off, this you can think of like Google. People who owned the information, knew what to do with it. They were the leaders within the industry. So now we have upon us, 2010 on forward, and the dates, who knows exactly when they're right, but this is Forrester's interpretation of it. But it's the age of the customer. Other ways you've heard that, and it's very common vernacular, it's the digital era. It is multi-channel. It's omni-channel. You can kind of pick your words, and you should, based on what your audience is and what you're trying to do, but they all kind of evolve around the customer is the focal point. And how it's changed in the past is that the previous three ages, those were eras in time, points of time, where the company was the driver. They set the experience, they set the price. They're the ones who eventually made, determined the direction of what was going. What is new now in the age of the customer is that companies cannot own them. You do not own your customers and where they're going, what they want to do. But now we have to listen to them much more than we ever had to in the past. And this is the crux or the pinnacle of what we need to do as business leaders, figure out how can we take advantage of this. So customer experience, that is the primary factor that's going to help you determine if you're going to be a winner in the market or a laggard in the market. So that customer experience, if it's exceptionally good, you're going to have customers more willing to consider another purchase. They're going to be the likelihood to recommend to a friend, and the likelihood if you do it poorly, that they're going to switch to a business or a competitor. Now, when you think of customer experience, think of everything that comes into that equation. It's not just technology, that's just a portion of it, but it's every component along the way, what it takes to orchestrate a great experience. And that gets down to the human element, which is still a very important piece of customer experience. Having people in positions who are very knowledgeable, understand what they're doing, and they have the ability to engage with the customer in a way that makes them feel that they're important. So it's all those pieces that really make it. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But a key component here is if you don't do it well, you're going to lose your share of the business. And it's become more known as the switching economy. And this is a recent results that are produced by Accenture that we released. And 51% of U.S. consumers last year switched service providers due to a poor customer experience. That's astonishing. That's really large. That equates to, in the analysis from Accenture, $1.3 trillion of business. That is phenomenal. And what's happening is that if you're a company that's figuring this out and you know how to be very thoughtful in how you're putting your experience plans together and how you interact with your customers, you're going to be on the winning side of that. And if you look at that, companies, if you look at those customers or companies that are digital customer experience leaders, and you look at the financial aspects of their performance, it is very clear that they have a much higher profit margins, they have higher revenue per their employees, and they get a greater market capitalization. So let me give it to you as another example. Forrester publishes every year who they think their top customer experience companies are and who the laggards are. Now, what they've done is they've looked at their financial performance for those top that are publicly traded for the last 6 years, and they compared it against those who they felt were the bottom of the customer experience. The top end companies that had over a 6-year period, and these are all publicly traded companies, a 40% return on their overall stock value. And that's taking into consideration the major downturn we had in the stock market versus those that were laggards in the industry. They had a 34% overall decline in their valuation. So what does this tell you? It tells you that customer experience is extremely important. Those who do it well are getting rewarded by loyal customers, and this ultimately is being recognized by the evaluations that companies have in a business. So this is very, very powerful things, and it's powerful for everyone in your organization to understand. So your executives generally do know and understand this as being a top initiative. 9 out of 10, 90% of all CSOs say they are strengthening their customer and client engagement programs. And this is a recent release by Pricewaterhouse. So your executives are there. They're going to expect that you as well are going to be trying to solve this sort of problem in the same vigilance that they are indicating that's important. So it's not only the CEOs, it's also the CIOs as well. A recent survey by the CIOs from Gartner rated the customer experience and service is the top priority for new initiatives that need to take place. So when you set the stage here, you know, you have the customer experience and how we're in a new era of customer experience. You also recognize that you have the evaluations of your companies can be much increased or better than they are if you do it right, and that your leaders with your companies are indicating this is one of the most important things that you can be doing. So where do you go from that? So let's talk about how do you thrive? How do you make forward progress? It's in a very basic sense, it's relatively simple. And this is a key concept you can share with your own employees. When customers engage with your customer, they already come to the table with certain expectations about what they want, and that's just meeting their needs. And then after that, you get an increased level of loyalty as you go up this pyramid, as you make their lives easier for them. And at the very top of that pyramid, and it's the hardest of all to achieve, is that you actually can strike a relationship with your customers, and they actually have an enjoyable experience with you. It's difficult to achieve, and a lot of times some of the key elements of making that is getting a real customer relationship with them and getting people engaged in that so you can bring it to that next level. Now, meeting basic needs is on a continuous escalating slide going up, because what right now is just a basic need and won't be the same by the end of the week. It's just ever changing. For example, things that someone's doing to make it easier for you, and I'll use an example of when I was just traveling the other day. It was a nice, when I get off the airplane, I was flying Delta, I get off and right out of my gate, there's a monitor there. And that monitor has all the next connecting flights for everyone who's on that plane. Well, that was a really nice feature to put it right at the entrance of the gate, right in front of me, and it was very specific to the people on the plane. That made it easier for me. I'm more appreciative of Delta, and I'm more willing to keep using them. But the thing is now, everyone sees that. Now Delta and then United and everyone follows that. At some point in time, that's no longer something that is something I'm going to recognize as you're making my life easier for me. It's going to fall down to just, that meets my needs. So it's ever mounting. You've got to be on top of this and stay ahead of it and be a leader in what's taking place, because it doesn't take very long and those expectations become just basic meets and needs. You could take, for example, chat is a good example of an engagement on a website. Not everyone has it, but it's coming more and more to a point where it's hitting saturation. It's becoming more of a basic need and expectation of customers on your websites that they want to be able to chat in that particular channel. So one of the key components of gaining that customer loyalty and being more successful in this competitive market is this term ease of use. And you've heard that word ease quite a bit already in all these presentations, but it's a key factor, and it's so easy to understand and incorporate into your business life and decisions. Ease of use, when, where, and how the customers want it. They want it faster. They want it more convenient, on their terms, using their choice of channels and services. I mean, you can look at this and say, yeah, that's pretty straightforward. It makes sense to me. It's easy, it's definitely more difficult to execute. But when it's all said and done, it's make life easier for your customers. So take this to heart when you're having conversations and you're prioritizing projects, you determine what you're going to be doing with your resources. You can ask this, and you can put this as a mantra on your tabletop. Is what I am doing today, is what my staff is doing today, are the actions that we're spending money and wages on leading towards something that's making it easier for our customer? Is the project that we're trying to pit against each other? One is going to be, filling some sort of regulatory complements. One could be towards, it could be all different things in compliance, and others are making it easier to use. It's an easy way that people understand it, and you can start filtering conversations in a way that can help move you in the right direction. So I'd encourage you to use it as a litmus test. One of the things that really is important in terms of making things easier is listening to the customer and understanding what they want. So here's a good example. 67% of consumers prefer self-service over speaking to a company representative. This is from Forrester, and it's a relatively new stat. They want that. In this particular scenario, this is a win-win for everyone, because if the customer self-serves, obviously you aren't incurring resource behind the scenes to, for that phone call, for the chat, or for the email, and they're going to walk away feeling that the engagement with you was very delightful. So these are key things and metrics when you're talking about what do you want to do, what are your priorities. Bring this stuff up to the table. It's very, very powerful. So the other key thing I'll share with you, and I don't have a stat here, is that 63% of customers, when they're determining their repurchase activity or how loyal they're going to be with you, it's based off of their post-purchase engagement with you. So when they come to you, they already have basic needs that they're looking for you, that they can go to your website, they can order things, you're going to ship it, and it's going to function the way they want. Now, the vast majority, it's a pretty high stat, 63%. The experience they have in the post-purchase engagement with your company have a disproportional weight to their ability to come back and continue to be a customer with you. And if you do it well, and if your rules, your policies, your procedures, your technologies, you can gain a competitive advantage. And let me use an example from Land's End here, too. And it's just a twist on this. We knew at Land's End that if a customer came back and experienced the return process, so in other words, they weren't happy for something, either their sizing or product didn't meet their needs. If they came back and experienced the return process, we could prove emphatically with following them that they had a much higher long-term value to the company because they were experienced a policy that was unconditional guarantee and people that would stand behind it. There was rules, process, technologies that made that experience stand out as a differentiator. So that's an example of how it can be so important. Any questions so far? We'll have time at the end. So let's talk about eGain a little bit. How can we influence some of this? One of the key things that we bring to the table is the power of choice. Choice is very powerful from a customer engagement point of view. Customers want to do things the way they want and not the options that you offer up to them. So choice means that I can call you, I can chat with you, I can email with you. You give me options to interact with click to call, things of that nature. They are very powerful. And you'll see this, websites, for example, that don't have a chat functionality on them. And then they introduce chat. You will see a good portion of volume shift from either phone or email channel to that chat. And a lot of that's not incremental. That was the customer wanted that channel experience all the time, and it just was not offered to them. Now you put it out there, now they're exercising it, and it was their choice, and that's what they wanted all along. So the absence of that meant you weren't really meeting all their needs, and it wasn't as good of an experience as it potentially could have been for them. So it's a little bit of a different twist of how to look at it. Design and deliver connected journeys. Now, connected journeys are recognizing that your customers interact with you in a lot of different ways, and if you look at the past, they're all like a spaghetti diagram all over the place. And you have to be cognizant. That's just the way it is. So they're going to come with you, and they're going to do some research on your website. They may go out to your store and do some showrooming. They may go out then to Facebook or chat and see what are people saying about this company. Do they have a good reputation or not? And the paths to get to their final decision are very disconnected if you don't have solutions in place that can start to allow you to recognize that this person did chat. They had a posting on Facebook that you can see and connect them when they come back to later. I see an email, I see a Facebook post, I see that they're on a website. Having all this connected allows you to engage with them a lot more intelligently, and it allows you then to start showing them an experience that's more seamless across all those touch points. They're not, you take, for example, knowledge management from one experience to the next that's integrated across, they're going to get the same answers. When they have a question about a return experience, and they go and they talk to someone in the Facebook versus a chat, there goes the exact same information, get the same replies, and they don't, it enhances their overall feeling of how easy it is to do business with their respective companies. So it gets back to the ease of use. Then there's another key component, is proactively engage and meet customer needs. Now this, we talked about ease of use, and then on that pyramid, the next point was joy. Well, if you can start proactively engaging customers before they need to reach out to you, you've not only made it easy for them, you've started to hit on that higher level of loyalty where you've made the experience more enjoyable for them. A good example is I'm in the checkout process, and I'm struggling. I'm getting error messages that are coming in the checkout process. You can, with, for example, eGain rules, you can be monitoring those error messages and prompt them and say, it looks like you're having problems. Can I help you? The other alternative is if you don't prompt them in a proactive way, they'll get to a certain frustration level, and two things will happen. They'll just walk away, which can be more common, or they have to reach out and they got to call someone. And the fact that you can save them that step and be a little bit intuitive and meet them to meet their needs before they even fully recognize it, now you're getting something that's a little bit more of a joy of experience. Same thing when it comes to notifications, where you're sending out emails that your package has just been delivered, or that you may have had an experience. Sorry, we just had a problem with your particular order and it's no longer can be shipped for whatever various reasons. There's always something that comes up. Well, there's the one avenue where the customer just waits for a period of time and they don't get any response. Or the other is, as soon as that happens, they get a notification to their text message or to their phones in some manner, and it tells them, here, I'm sorry, we weren't able to fulfill our promise. Here's exactly what happened, and they tell them right away. That way, you provided them an exceptional experience. And although it may have been on a negative front, they recognize and appreciate that a company can do this for me. I want to do business with them because this is how I expect to be treated, versus having to wait and wondering where the package is, have to reach out, make a phone call. And at that point in time, they're ready, are not meeting their basic needs, because now they got to call you with something that is negative in nature. Even if you do a good job saving on the reverse side, it's not as good as if you could be proactive. So the proactive nature of business, this is where I challenge you as business leaders. This is where you got to get a little bit creative. You got to watch what your competitors are doing, but then you got to beat them at times. You've got to figure out ways in which you can get in front of issues that are going to occur and let them know what's going to happen. I'll give you another really good example, and it's a shipping one too. You have, everyone uses FedEx, USPS, things like that too. And you get messages that are come back from FedEx, UPS, USPS that say, sorry, this item couldn't be delivered because it was, the person wasn't there, it was non-delivered. That content or information can come back to you real time. Many times companies don't realize it. But you can get an instant feed from them that says, I tried to deliver it to your house, it was non-deliverable, that could trigger a response right out to that person just seconds later saying, we tried when we weren't able to do it. But it's taking that and not even making it 2 days later or a day later, but trying to make it as instant as possible. That's how you start winning in the market. That's how you're trying to put yourself in an area where you're being much more proactive. So last point here is future-proof. How can eGain help with that? Technology is moving so fast, you and your respective companies do not have the time, bandwidth to keep researching and figuring out who's the next vendor, who the next partner is going to have this new customer engagement solution in place. We at eGain do that. That's part of the investment and relationship we have with you, that we are continuously researching, putting money into research and development, figuring out what are better, improved ways, and then we integrate it with the customer engagement hub, which I'm showing here, and you've seen this in other slides. This is the power of, and where I'm trying to get as a future-proof, is that when new solutions about new customer engagement capabilities come forward, we bring them to the table in a manner in which they are fairly simple to bring forward underneath this platform and expose to your customers. Now, there's certain premises that you're on the most current versions and you have a certain functionality that's underneath this umbrella, but it gives you a lot of flexibility and power from a vendor like us that can help you move faster, and that's all part of the game. So let's talk about some things that you can do coming up. Monday morning, some of you are going to be back Wednesday, but what can you do in a very practical sense to start moving the picture a little bit? And I already talked about this up front. Educate your teams. Education is very, very powerful. This stuff is not that difficult to learn, but you'd be surprised at how many people aren't really getting the message in your own organizations. Make sure your staff understands it and knows the power behind it, and keep preaching it and preaching it. And typically you're going to get fairly receptive arms because you're trying to do things in a way that are going to make you more competitive. Tear down silos. It is one of the key reasons companies, especially larger companies, really, really struggle at providing this omni-channel experience, this engagement across all the channels. And it's something that you have within your controls. It's just so hard to do because we're talking power and people and processes. And you really need to sit down, look at how you are structured, and ask the question, is the way that we are organized in a way that's going to position us to effectively manage in a omni-channel solution that we can get a seamless experience? And many times you already know that. If I raise hands here, you would self-proclaim that, yeah, our organization isn't quite set up that way, and we have work to do on it. But it just takes getting people to the table and talking through it. And I'm not advocating that that's easy, but there are ways of doing it and moving forward on it. And part of that with the silos too, by the way, is really doing your homework of understanding the touch points you have with your customers and creating the flow and the map of how they're doing, and then each of the organizations and departments that they're going in and out of. You eventually then get a good feel for, yeah, this is a bit of a tangled mess is how they're going through our company. And your customers could care less about how you're structured, but all the time the rules and the policies and procedures are being exposed to them. Think tactical, think strategic, and tactical at the same time. You know, everything cannot wait for the Holy Grail system. Now, since I've moved to eGain, I've had the privilege of interacting with a lot of companies now. And one of the key things I hear on a regular basis, well, yeah, we're waiting for this CRM system, we're waiting for this ERP system, and you know, we can't do anything until this is in place, and we got this multi-year project, and you know, that's good. I mean, that's really, those projects are important, but you can't sit and wait and do nothing. This is where some of the solutions like in eGain comes to the tables. There are ways that you can still make progress on improving those customer engagements, and they aren't necessarily going to detract you completely from, or that hardly at all, from that roadmap, that multi-year roadmap. You have to be able, in a position as leaders, to be able to challenge sometimes about, yeah, but we got this, but you know, there's ways that we can implement that. Yeah, could be some slight rework in the whole picture of it, but the risk and reward of that little bit of rework versus what you can do to actually change the experience more near term is well worth it. Some people use, well, it's got to wait to the Holy Grail system because it shelters them. Well, I don't have to worry about it then right now. That's something I can worry about later. Yeah, that's true, but you're not competing in business as much because you're going to have someone who's down the road who is going to be a little bit more flexible and figure out ways to do it. And it's all about being how well you can compete. So additional actions. You know, bring your systems up to speed. Have your systems be service architected oriented. In other words, don't create your systems and your platforms around functions and departments. That's old school thinking. That goes back to that you know, the age of information, the age of the manufacturing, stuff like that. That's old school. You're not going to be successful. You got to organize your infrastructure in a way that it's geared around the returns process. It's geared around you know, the upfront sales from end to end. The inventory isn't siloed. It's all one process that can do it, whether it's on front in your website, whether it's going through a retail channel, whether it's going through a third-party reseller. You have to look at it from that holistic experience rather than here is the internet, here's the retail, here's resellers. It just doesn't work anymore. You're not competitive in that way. Transform your data, same thing. You know, I guess the next one is develop an infrastructure that allows you to innovate quicker. This is in recognition a little bit that the cloud services are providing greater flexibility for businesses. You can get things to market and change faster than you can when everything is internal. There's a lot of pros and cons, and I certainly don't want to go down that road in this conversation, but cloud solutions empower your businesses to be more nimble, to be quicker, and to be able to provide solutions that are going to change your engagement solution. Transform your data. It's very similar to you know, your overall systems. That you've got to be oriented towards the architecture of a service company. And you know, then organize to deliver a seamless experience. And it's similar to what I've been talking about, the org charts, but everything has to be, you got to really do your homework and study the engagement paths that you have with your customers, and it would be very enlightening. Quickly, you can see how complicated sometimes our companies make it for our customers to engage with us. So as a last slide here I have, and it's something I throw out to you because many of our existing customers of eGain, you have the customer engagement hub that you've seen many times on the slides. You have the ability and the power to test and learn with the solutions that we're putting on the table quicker than you might otherwise think. And that's part of what we bring to the table is, say if you're in version 11, you have chat ready, the ability to go from chat to a video chat, to a co-browse, to some of these other types of capabilities, they're well within your reach without having to have a big project in place where you have to plan for it well in advance, get it in the budget, talk about a multi-half-a-year implementation. There are some things that working with us, we can help you test and learn about the tools in these engagements that can be much easier turnaround. But you got to be willing to stick your neck out a little bit and in your organizations work with the ITs and say, we've got it. We can't make everything a 6 to 12 month effort. There are some things that can be done easier, and here's why. And we can help explain that. So that whole test and learn allows you to fail faster. And it's not new terminology. Most of you have ever heard it. Have heard it before, but the ability to get out there and say, does co-browse work or not? We can come to the table and say, here's some studies we've seen from other companies, and they've had really good success. Can't say emphatically it will do that for your company, but get it out there, try it, set some metrics up, and if it doesn't work, move on, put an end to it, and try something else. So that's the beauty of what you need to do is have the ability to execute and turn things around fast, because that's going to allow you to improve the customer engagement and make life easier for your customers and improve overall loyalty. So that's the end of my conversation. So questions for folks? Sure.
I work for a large financial services institution. So what is eGain doing to help us that are a little bit more concerned about privacy and customer information get to a cloud-based solution? Because typically right now we know it's quicker to market, but we're afraid of it.
Yeah, certainly one thing that is a common thing in certain companies, financial being one, and sometimes the healthcare, the sensitivity of the information. One thing I know for certain, we're investing a significant amount into the back-end infrastructure and how robust the data can be protected and really be able to match in parallel and even exceed some of your internal expectations about how you would do it. And I think if you look at the capabilities that we put on the table versus what you're comfortable doing yourself, and when it's laid out and it's audited, we're finding on a more regular basis with financial companies who are actually moving to the cloud that they're saying, and very rigorous, and when I say very, as you know, it's very rigorous auditing, we're coming out and they're saying, yeah, this is going to work. So my answer is, I get it, eGain gets it, invest significantly in it, and we are meeting or surpassing the expectations that your auditors have in place to make that happen.
Going back to the pyramid slide.
Yeah.
So in one channel, I think we've actually reached the enjoyable tier, but in trying to go the omni-channel route, so our member service representatives make it actually enjoyable to conduct business with us. But getting that to the digital channel and trying to mirror that becomes a real challenge. Do you have any end-all be-all solutions for that?
Sure. So you're saying your experience sometimes in channels, but the question is how do you get to that joy part in an electronic version of it? Part of that is recognizing, just as you already said, we have success with it in like call center channels of the people. People is a key component of this. So what I advocate is if you want to get to that next part of joy, is that you have to keep people engaged in it. So when you're on the website, have a video chat with them. That is extremely engaging, and even more so in a call center. When you're in a mobile device, try to bring to that mobile device the fact that you can chat with them and have these sort of engagements, because you have to bring the human element to it. When you talk about customer experience, and I shared with you that so much of it is the post-purchase experience version, That is, so it's a great thing you brought up because that's really what we're trying to advocate is that you have to keep the people engagement part of it in and across all these channels. It's getting lost a bit sometimes, but companies who are doing it and they're doing it well are recognizing that this is it is a key component of having that human side to it. It's never going to go away. That's the one thing, and I tried to do a fair amount of reading, is that the human engagement side of it, as much as we're going digital, and I think the word digital is sometimes is a bad term because it misleads people, that it's all about technology. Technology is just an enabler. It's the customers who are deciding what they want to use or not, and they're choosing ease of choice, and they're choosing to stay engaged. They like technology that helps them stay engaged. And that's what you got to look at when you're evaluating, what am I going to do? What are the priorities in our business? And that's where if you become more of advocate at the table about what are you going to be doing, just bringing the power of your voice can be helpful.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that, and it is very evident that transactions are very easy online or on the digital channel. It's getting that personal touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Any more questions? Otherwise, I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.